All right, you guys, happy Thursday. Of course, you know that is our Friday. We've had a lot of fun this week. Many tears were shed, most of them from Blakey Neff. I was remarking how odd it is that for 10 months straight, we were told that all the widow wants is transparency. Erica just wants transparency. She's asking the judge to show everyone everything so that there are no questions left. And then I share a video and they're like, lock her up, lock her up. You just can't make this stuff up. So quite literally, just before we were going to go live today, Ashley, my producer, made a shocking discovery about the medical examiner who performed Charlie's autopsy. And I'm currently pretty unwell over it because I just can't take this anymore. Everything is just so obviously wrong. Fastest autopsy ever. Just in the middle of the night, a couple of hours, he's done. Who did this? Who performed this? Now we've got the chief medical examiner resigning. The person who signed off on it, though, is one that we are going to be speaking about, Dr. Andrew Guajardo. And there's more because we also received a pretty explosive tip regarding the clothing of Charlie's security team and where that went. You remember the clothing they were wearing in the car en route to the hospital. They were covered in blood. The amazing Mikey McCoy got them scrubs. Well, we have an idea what may have happened to the clothing thereafter. And we are going to stick with the hospital theme today because we've all been wondering where the heck all of the hospital witnesses are. Like, this is an ER, sir. Where are the doctors, nurses, other patients? It's almost as though no one was there but Turning Point USA. How could that be? Well, we've come across a source, and the story that we've been told is incredible. And if true, it very much implies foreknowledge of Charlie's assassination. So let's get right into it. Welcome back to Candace. I don't even know where to begin, so we're just going to start, okay? His name is Dr. Andrew Guajardo. He is from New York. He moved to Utah in 2018 and was working as an assistant at the medical examiner's office. In 2024, when our chief medical examiner, Dr. Deidre Amaro, began to rule the roost, she decided to select him as her deputy. So he was promoted in 2024 when she got there to the role of deputy chief examiner. Okay. So Charlie Kirk, we were told, things are kind of shifting now, but we were really told that he was murdered by a trans furry kid on a rooftop, a gamer. I do want to say there's still no proof of him being trans or into trans furries beyond the influencers that were immediately sent out to tell us this was a left versus right war, that there was an LGBTQ narrative here. We were also told that he confessed to his crime to his friends, his fellow gamers, on Discord. Here are some of those messages that he tells them that he's speaking to people, Jug, Barnaby, Marina, we've got a girl in there, a guy in there. And he says, hey guys, I have bad news for you all. It was me at UVU yesterday. I'm sorry for all of this. I'm surrendering through a sheriff friend in a few moments. Thanks for all the good times and laughs. You've all been so amazing. Thank you for everything. It's just such an odd thing to do, to just keep confessing, right? Lance Twiggs, Tyler Robinson's alleged boyfriend, has indicated in his interview that Tyler was very into gaming. Not politics, he said, but gaming. So we have a storyline which involves trans furry gamers, to be specific. Now, of course, the majority of the public is suspicious, right? Suspicious to say the least over the text messages, the Discord confessions, even more so after seeing the Spider-Man ninja who jumped from a low rooftop with the skill, precision, and fearlessness of a SEAL Team 6 member. But after listening to the preliminary hearing, we suspect that Tyler, it's plausible, could have been set up by Lance. His prints are everywhere. He lives with him. He had the login to, it's plausible that he could have a login to his boyfriend's Discord. That wouldn't be strange when you're dating someone and living with them. His prints were less degraded. certainly, than Tyler Robinson's were on the gun, which had dust in the barrel, so likely wasn't even fired. Who could have had access to Tyler's stuff? The Discord element just feels a little fetty, right? Just a little federal trappy, I might say. So who is this Dr. Andrew Guajardo, right? Anything that might be of interest in his background? That was kind of how Ashley began. She was like, oh, I'm wondering about the medical examiner. I wonder who he is. I said, yeah, we should get to that. And it turns out there's something very interesting to know about him. And it's who he's married to. His wife is someone who might be of interest, who might be an expert in this category. Honestly, they might bring her in as an expert because Dr. Andrew Guajardo is married to a furry. I kid you not. Or at least, the very least we can assert is that he's married to someone who encourages, supports, works with, and propagates the culture of furries and occasionally dresses up as one herself. He's married to a woman named Dr. Ashley Brown Guajardo. And here she is. Meet Ashley. Now we obviously turned the sound off because there was music as she was dancing as a furry, and she was promoting her book, and she used the hashtag, furry. We're going to read what this book is about before I tell you more about her, because this is just so incredible. Let's pull this Penguin Random House book that she was promoting. She published this book, Play Like a Fangirl. Okay. And can you scroll down because it tells you us the description? I don't know if you can make that bigger. But my eyesight's always so bad during pregnancy. It says that the book description is about how women and queer gamers can express and elicit excitement, creativity, and desire in online gaming communities and beyond. How do cosplayers, modders, fan artists, fan fiction authors, and TikTok content creators build communities for marginalized and underserved fans of games? In Play Like a Fangirl, Christine and Ashley and Tanya, these are the authors, are going to look at the collective efforts of such fans to create meaningful and arousing connections to the video game worlds, to characters, and to one another. Using pleasure as a lens, they show how fans' playful practices both reflect current cultural values and shape how we relate to video games and ourselves. They develop the concept of what they call the fangirl gaze to show how communities of fangirls can be regarded as oppositional, subversive, and transformative in terms of societal expectations and gender, play, and sex. Okay, you get the idea. Now, you're probably wondering how Ashley became a doctor. How did she become a doctor? Well, sociology, right? Sociology is how she climbed the teaching ladder after achieving her degree, and guess where she achieved it? At Arizona State University. She then earned her PhD in sociology overseas at the University of Manchester, and then she became a teacher. She's access to preschool kids. What we learned from her bio is that, quote, previously, Dr. Guajardo was faculty at Brunel University in London and then the University of Utah. Been there for almost 10 years, last 10 years. She won awards for innovative and inclusive teaching at both institutions. Since 2017, she's hosted a weekly educational Twitch stream on games user research methods. She's also held several leadership positions in industry and academia facing professional organizations. She was vice president of the Global Game Jam Conference, co-director of IGDA's Games User Research Special Interest Group. I'd like to see who funds the IGDA. And currently serves as the president of the Digital Games Research Association. I would like to see who funds that. If I know about the feds, this is how they move money. Give me an association, a 501c3, we'll get money in there. Anyway, as I told you, she's the author of many books, but also the author of Sexuality in Role-Playing Games, dozens of book chapters, journal articles on fandom, sexuality, particularly video games, tabletop role-playing games, and she's currently working on a book which explores how fantasy can shape your sexual desire. But the biggest thing that I want to underscore is just how deeply submerged she is in gamer culture, how deeply tied she is to the gamer community. And for the last 10 years, she's been in Utah. And she works and explains the philosophy of how gamers can engage with characters, create characters outside of themselves. That is her expertise. She encourages and explains how people effectively can sort of separate from their real life persona. And that, by the way, is what a furry is. It's not like it's the LGBTQIA thing. I had to look this up. I'm going to read this to you because I was like, I don't even know what a furry is. It says, the term furry describes a diverse community of fans, writers, gamers, and role players. Most furries create themselves an animal character called their fursona, with whom they identify and can function as an avatar within the community. So this is not me, this is my avatar that is separate from me. So you guys remember when Lance was testifying and he said at the preliminary hearing that he goes by Luna? And for some reason I felt like it was going to be some anime. I was like, what? I don't think he's trans. I think this is going to be some gamer thing. I suspect that is what Luna is. It's a gaming character that he engages with outside of Lance Twigs. Okay. Here is how Dr. Ashley might explain how that engagement works. Take a listen.
So erotic roleplay is different from cybersex in the sense that in erotic roleplay, you have this roleplay component, meaning that people are not, at least explicitly, playing as themselves. They are not seeking out sexual interaction in a game or in a chat room or otherwise as the human being that they are in their day-to-day life. They are playing the role of a character, perhaps in a fantasy world, perhaps from a popular franchise like Star Wars, or just their own original character, but they are playing this character that is different from them with different wants, needs, hopes, and dreams, and they're engaging with erotic content. So cybersex, on the other hand, would be when people want to engage with sexual content online, or, if it's phone sex, then it's through the phone, but that would be as themselves. So in terms of practice, what are we actually talking about? Well, the two are very similar because at the end of the day, you're still using a keyboard to type out your erotic thoughts and feelings and emotions. The difference being that one person is doing it as a character and one person is doing it as themselves.
Okay. I would like to again stress the point that Dr. Ashley has spent the last 10 years working as a professor in Utah, okay, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, encouraging her students and her gamers to join her on her Discord, to follow her Twitch, her streamer account. And I'm wondering, how big can this community of gamers that are into this be throughout the state of Utah? I'm wondering, have we identified everybody on this Discord chat? I'm wondering, is this a coincidence? How big can this community be? And similar to Dr. Amara, Dr. Amara has left the building. She's no longer at Utah. Ashley and her husband they've now gone to New York. He's accepted. Now he's going to be the chief medical examiner in New York, and she's going to be teaching at NYU. We should pull up her LinkedIn, by the way. We should pull up just to show, not barred from being around kids, actually encourages it. Now she's the assistant arts professor at NYU full-time. So they up and left. Associate professor, I guess she left ahead of her husband. I don't think that's right because he didn't leave until after, obviously, he did the medical examiner's office, and they are married. But assistant professor, University of Utah. She's just been around students for a very long time. So again, I'll ask the question, how big can this particular gaming furry create a character that is outside of yourself, join me on Discord, Twitch community in Utah be? Has she ever come across Lance Twigs? That'd be a question that I would ask. I just feel like that's a question that I would like to know the answer to across her 10-year career in Utah, and also being on the board and working with these outside organizations and associations, studying these people and encouraging this lifestyle. I'll leave it at that because I am just jaw on the floor with all of this. So Charlie effectively had a lesbian, because Dr. Amaro was dating a woman, and Deidre Amaro, and I don't know what to describe Dr. Andrew as. Andrew Guajardo, I guess, I don't know, what he's married to. He's got to be remotely into this. Too many coincidences. Moving on from that, interesting little tidbit for you. Remember how Frank Turek described them receiving scrubs from the hospital? And I've always found that to be remarkably suspicious. You don't just get surgical scrubs at an ER because you're covered in blood. Still, by the way, nobody knows why or how he got that blood on him, because if Brian Harpole is to be believed, he was doing all of the work while Rick Cutler was holding him, while Frank was praying in the back. So we asked the question, how could these stories be so different, where Frank says he did CPR and Brian says he didn't? Did Frank just write himself into the story because he needed to explain why he took off all of his clothes to the hospital and was wearing scrubs? Because it would be pretty weird if you did that if you were not, in fact, covered in blood. There'd have to be another reason that you did that if you were not, in fact, covered in blood. Like I said, Brian doesn't recall Frank doing CPR. Frank says Brian was distracted and just didn't realize what he had done for the last 30 seconds. He just got distracted on this remarkably short car ride to the office and didn't see him lay Charlie down flat and start doing mouth-to-mouth CPR. Okay. But I'd wondered, we had all sort of wondered aloud, what exactly happened to their clothes then, right? Brian's, I cut Charlie, I took the shirt. What happened to the clothes? Well, I will say Frank Turek's name was not explicitly mentioned, but I did hear that the feds, the FBI, took the clothes from certain members of Charlie's security team down to their boxer briefs, took their clothes. Down to their boxer briefs, the FBI took their clothing. So how are we to digest that? Well, in a normal scenario, we would think, oh, great. They obviously did that in an effort to collect evidence. That's what they should be doing, bagging the clothing and sending it to be stored for further examination or in case it comes up. Maybe further testing, maybe it'll come up in throughout the course of the court cases. But this is not a normal situation. These feds were not doing anything normal, right? We know this because we learned that the feds immediately had the car towed, sent away, wanted it cleaned and resold. They didn't take it and go, oh, let's keep this for evidence. They said, get rid of the car. So I don't think that they said, get rid of the car, but let's keep Brian Harpole's or Rick Cutler's boxers for evidence. In my mind, they likely took their clothes and had them destroyed. That's in my mind. I don't know that for certain. It's an unknowable thing unless you are Tyler Robinson's defense team and you can demand access to that sort of information, which I would if I was on Tyler Robinson's defense. Down to the boxers. The feds took it. You see, I'm a person who actually, just to be clear, so that I'm on record, I want the judge to come back in September and say that there is enough evidence to move the case forward, that the influencers were convincing. Me and Turning Point in that regard, we're kind of rooting for the same thing, but for different reasons. I personally just want to see how long they can keep this farce going. I want more information to become available to the public. I want to see them do that thing that's going to happen more like, I don't know. My body cam just went out at right the exact moment when I found the screwdriver. There's going to be a lot of that. I want the story to become increasingly more cartoonish, for the influencers to become more radical, because I think it's needed for the world to awaken to what exactly it is that rules over us. I also want to mention a little bit more about this hospital. Another very interesting tip that we received, and I believe this is a potentially explosive lead. And in the interest of protecting the source, I'm going to remove the narrative and just tell you the facts regarding what allegedly took place. Now, many of us have noted how odd it is that there were no eyewitnesses to the extremely erratic, chaotic, and utterly improbable ER scene that was depicted by Brian Harpole, where are the witnesses? Where are the witnesses, we wondered, to this middle-aged man jumping on a stretcher which he treated himself to. Treat yourself, take a stretcher on your own if you feel you're important enough. Then took out some scissors, who knows where he got those from, maybe from his bag, jumped onto the gunshot wound victim, cut a Freedom t-shirt in half to prep for a defibrillator that nobody mentioned to you, while going back and forth with the surgical team about what drugs to give to Charlie. That clip can never be played enough, by the way. It's so far beyond ludicrous that we should take a listen to it again.
We get to the hospital. Actually, we make it to the hospital through the traffic. We've got full wound pack in. We get out and we carry in to the door. Once we make it into the door, we see a gurney on the left-hand side. We put him on a gurney, and then I wheel him into a room. I start giving the patient information to the staff there. I end up getting on top of him and cutting the shirt that he had on off, that white Freedom shirt. And so I cut it off so they could get to him, so that I didn't articulate this to them, but I wanted to get that stuff off so they could put a defibrillator on him. And so, and then started talking about pushing drugs. And so I was back and forth with them on drugs and defibrillator. And so then, once you get that shirt cut off and moved out of the way, there's enough of medical professionals in there. And so I just want to get out of their way. And so I got out of their way and walked out of the room and stood outside the room and held guard on the outside door of the room so nobody else could come in there.
Okay, so that's a man who fell asleep watching Dr. House reruns. Okay, he just pictured himself as Dr. House. None of that was real life. I love the part where he's like, and then I excused myself. Like I could have stayed in longer, obviously, but nobody asked me to leave. I just was like, okay, let's run through the drugs. I need 2 grams. I need 2 milligrams of this. I need 4 milligrams of this. Hey, bring in this. Who's got the tea? Okay. All right. There's enough of you guys. I'll see myself out and I'm going to guard the door. None of that takes place in a real emergency room setting. We just know that doesn't take place in a real emergency room setting. I am so tired of having to play stupid and interested in these narratives that they keep spinning that are coming from TV. Okay? He is not in charge of deciding what medicine to give, to administer to a patient that you've rushed in and said has a gunshot wound. There would actually be more security protocol, because you'd be thinking, did a husband shoot his wife? You don't just trust people. Now he's got a pair of scissors. You just would be like, you need to see yourself out. Thank you. Not this guy. Anyway, back to our question. Where are the witnesses to the events that took place that day at Timpanogos Hospital? Where are they? That's a scene. Didn't they see him doing that? Didn't they see Dr. Harpole House? Well, listen to this. I am told that at some point in the 10 o'clock a.m. hour on September 10th, so to be clear, and this is crucial, over 2 hours before Charlie was shot, the Timpanogos hospital staff directed everyone who was in the emergency room into a different wing of the hospital. People were not sure what was going on. The staff was directed to move everyone in the emergency room to a different wing of the hospital. Then after some time, at approximately 11:30 a.m., patients were informed that they would be transferred aboard shuttles to Intermountain Hospital. That's Utah Valley Hospital. And that's what happened. All of the emergency room patients and all of their files were then transferred to Intermountain. So there's effectively no trail outside of hospital cameras, which have been conveniently seized by Kash Patel's office, of these patients ever having been at Timpanogos Hospital. Now, there are a few things I'd like to say here. First, there's always a trail. There's always a trail. Somebody somewhere drove that shuttle bus, booked the shuttle bus, saw the shuttle bus arriving at Intermountain Hospital, was working at Intermountain Hospital when a shuttle bus stopped and people emerged and files mysteriously then were transferred. And if you are that somebody, that one body, please email us. By the way, I just want to mention, if you were one of those patients, you probably should also contact a lawyer. But you can't pull that off without something. There's also some techie people, maybe the Google satellite imagery, this shuttle, somebody's going to look up shuttle companies. Was there a weird trip that day? Let's get on that. More tips at CandaceOwens.com, because if we are able to prove that this took place beyond a shadow of a doubt with paperwork, then I would say foreknowledge of Charlie's assassination can no longer be disputed. So again, please email us more tips at CandaceOwens.com. Now, I can tell you I trust very much that this information is accurate. And I would now like to remind you guys of another fact, which I think supplies some credence to this claim. A story which we broke way back in October of last year, on October 28th, to be specific. We couldn't figure out why, but we were like, Charlie has a hospital file that was at Utah Valley Hospital. We were so confused by this. Somebody had leaked this to us. People who worked there were certain that he was being treated at Utah Valley at Intermountain, because not only did he have a file there, but they were specifically instructing people not to touch or open that file. Do you remember that? I'm going to show you that file again. October 28th, we did this episode. Do we have that file? Okay, they're going to pull it up in a second. You'll just let me know, Sky, when you have it. So we were completely bewildered. We were going, did they even go to Timpanogos? We don't have any witnesses at Timpanogos. We were asking the question, did they go to, did Charlie actually secretly go to Utah Valley Hospital? We had specifically mentioned that the Timpanogos hospital system, they use a system called Epic, did not speak to Utah Valley's Intermountain Health System. So it made entirely no sense that Charlie's file would appear there, but it was there. And there was no way this person could have made it up, because it had Charlie's personal details, even his home address back in Illinois, which was not available to the public. And we never got an answer on this. We were just like, why would Charlie's file be appearing where he is not? I actually was inclined to think that Charlie was actually brought there. But now I'm going, well, if what this source, and I trust this source, is telling us is accurate, then we may have our answer. All emergency room files on September 10th, which included Charlie's, were transferred out. Electronic files were transferred out to Utah Valley. And that is a massive scandal. A massive scandal if we can get a hard evidence that proves that. And I'm going to show you that document now, by the way, because you probably don't remember this. But yes, we broke the story. There he was. It said Charles J. Kirk, and it had him in there. And we had more information that we just wiped because we wanted to protect the person who had given us this. But it did have also beyond his birthday, it also had his address. And other people were also in the system. So we're looking at Utah Valley's system, and Charlie was a patient on September 10th. Anyway, there is more and that I could tell you, but I think it would identify a source, so I would rather not do that. All right, guys, we should definitely take a break. I think we're about 30 minutes into this. We'll be right back. All right, you guys, our great nation turned 250 this year. We represent 2.5 centuries of possibility, growth, and some of the greatest minds in human history. What will the next 250 years look like? The next generation of Americans could be the most impactful, but first they must be given their chance at life. That's why I'm making this critical request today. Give a special gift of $250 to PreBorn to honor our country's milestone anniversary and to celebrate our great future ahead. Your gift will help provide 8 ultrasounds. PreBorn is helping today's mothers choose life by providing these free ultrasounds so that they can meet their baby for the first time. Help new mothers realize that they can give their baby life and that motherhood is indeed possible. Celebrate America's birthday with your $250 gift to PreBorn today. To donate, simply dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby, or visit preborn.com/Candace, preborn.com/Candace. I also want to remind you guys about Tax Network USA, because plenty of people owe back taxes. Maybe that's you. Maybe you have years of unfiled returns, or maybe you file every year and still can't get ahead because the balance keeps growing. Maybe you withdrew money from a 401k or an IRA and suddenly got hit with a tax bill that you never expected. Whatever caused the problem, one thing is certain: the IRS penalties and interest keep adding up every single month. If you don't have a plan now, you could end up owing even more next tax season. Before the IRS starts sending more letters, garnishing wages, or freezing your bank account, call Tax Network USA. They have been helping taxpayers nationwide for more than 15 years, resolving back taxes, unfiled returns, and serious IRS problems. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. Right now, they're offering a free IRS investigative call to find out exactly what you owe and what options you have to fix it. So call 866-686-1651 or visit tnusa.com/Candace. Again, that's tnusa.com/Candace. I see someone already mentioning in the chat. Great idea. Where are the flock cameras? Surely we would be able to catch that shuttle on there. Yes, we should be able to do what's it called, a gamma request in the state of Utah. Somebody's going to catch this shuttle. I just know that that's just very precise and specific. And like I said, I trust the source. So go Max, people. Speaking of which, yesterday we received so many emails from surgeons and doctors and people that are in the medical field, because I did not even bother to traverse and give my medical opinion because I'm not informed. I trust the people who work in these industries to tell me things I need to notice. Similar to the t-shirt, and people going, that's a t-shirt on the ground. That's a t-shirt. It turns into plastic. Well, people who work in the medical industry were deeply bothered by Charlie's medical exam, the little bit that was published by the prosecution in their filing yesterday. And I just wanted to read you a couple of these emails that we received. This person wrote, "Dear Candace, so much gratitude for your razor-sharp investigation and intuition. I am a board-certified anesthesiologist with 25 years of clinical experience, and I have a solid grasp of anatomy. I agree with you and John Bray that the exploding mic theory is the best explanation of what we could grasp from the limited footage available. Briefly, number one, given the eruption of blood and or of a tissue emanating from Charlie's neck, it is clear that the large vessels of the neck, the left carotid artery and the jugular vein, were transected. This kind of extrusion is more consistent with an exit wound. However, because large blood vessels were involved, we cannot rule out the possibility that a bullet entering his left neck would have resulted in what we saw. Two, if Charlie was shot from the rear and the bullet exited the left neck, it would most certainly do what was observed. However, there is no evidence that he was shot from behind. Three, if Charlie was hit from the front, the momentum from the bullet would have sent his torso backwards. That is not what we saw. Four, a shaped charge in the Rode microphone would have sent a projectile from his R anterior chest upward and leftward, likely exiting from his left neck or entering his cervical spine. The projectile would have almost certainly damaged both lungs and possibly his heart. In other words, there would have been pulmonary hemorrhaging and possibly hemorrhaging around the heart as well. The exploding mic is thus the best fit from what we could see and what the coroner reported. The bullet fragments, however, are a mystery. I suspect what was found was not bullet fragments, but the casing of the shaped charge, which would have served as the projectile." I did want to say this, that piece right there about, I suspect, we just go up in that email that could have actually been from the shaped charge. I was asking my team that. I was going, why is the base assumption in this report, like when they send these tiny little fragments, 3 or 4 of which were unusable, pardon me. The ATF testified, I think that they received 5 fragments, 4 were unusable, and 1 was big enough for them to use. Why is the base assumption that you're looking at a bullet? It's like telling somebody the answer, like, hey, this is a bullet fragment, when we know that it's the same metal. It could have the same jacketing if you use a shaped charge. I was interested in that. It's something that, he is suspecting that what was found was not bullet fragments, but the casing of the shaped charge, which would have served as a projectile. I totally agree with that. He continues, no ambulance with resuscitative equipment or trained personnel immediately available. No defibrillators, no access to IV drugs. He certainly sustained a neck injury and his neck should have been stabilized before moving him. I think it wasn't stabilized because they were hiding what was on his shirt. It's my opinion. Given his injuries to the big blood vessels, he would have gone into hypovolemic shock, massive blood loss within minutes, and would have required cardiac resuscitation, which meant that chest compressions would have been immediately required to restore blood circulation. None of that was initiated at the scene and would have been nearly impossible to perform in the back of an SUV. In my estimation, he was murdered from a shaped charge on his R chest, and his security team did their best in a highly rehearsed fashion to get him the hell out of there before anybody could see what happened. Just going to stop that and say, this is somebody else's opinion. It is not mine. We'll stop there. But yeah, you get the point. And I do believe that there is so much evidence there and that's what happened. That he got hit by a shaped charge. And I think that there was no gun on the rooftop. There was a person who was told to run, and so that they could blame another decoy. Everybody's looking at Losey, and we are being lied to. I think we all agree. That's why you're here, right? This next person said that they're a transplant coordinator, previously a scrub nurse in the OR for years, and I worked at a level 1 trauma center. I have scrubbed in on more gunshot wounds than I could ever count. I've never seen thoracic trauma or hemorrhaging, for that matter, in a gunshot wound to the head or neck. There would have to have been a blunt force trauma to the chest, which would make a lot of sense if his microphone exploded under his shirt. Also, I was yelling at the TV when I was watching Barron's podcast the other day regarding the autopsy. It takes at least 8 hours for your deep core body temperature to reach 40 degrees in a morgue cooler. The timeline would only support about 3 hours in the morgue, depending on how much time Erica spent with him when she arrived. And that's if his body was ever taken to the morgue. Nothing about the case makes any sense, and it's infuriating. I thank God for all of your hard work. Go Max, justice for Charlie. That was interesting too. I told you the speed of the autopsy is incredible. We were looking this up, and it is true that the protocol is to bring the body down to 40 degrees in the morgue. Usually, obviously, these things do not happen by morning time. You're prepared to be shipped, especially in a case this big. Why wouldn't you want to do the most thorough autopsy of all time? And that wasn't the circumstance here. It was rushed, but we did look up, even though it's not normal, doesn't follow normal protocol, it certainly isn't illegal to just instantly dive into doing an autopsy. The body, it's capable of doing that within, I think, what was it, 12 hours before they start to get decomposition. We were looking that up. So the body wouldn't have decomposed, but it's just not what they usually do. Everything was extraordinary. Like they just rushed it. And when you do the timeline of how quickly that all had to happen, it's insane. Why? Why would you want that rushed? Why would you want that rushed? I think we all know why you would want that rushed. I'm going to read one more of these comments actually from doctors that were writing on YouTube. One writes, I am a surgeon. Based on the medical examiner's report, the trajectory from the roof is not possible. Charlie was hit in the low neck. The medical examiner's report said much of his cervical spine was traumatically gone and that the left side of C2 to C7 was obliterated. To have affected up to C2, it would have had to have been an upward trajectory from the point of entry on his neck. I heard a podcaster, Project Constitution, say that Charlie was also wearing a Rode transmitter at his left waist. If this had a shaped charge, the trajectory would make sense for entering the low neck and hitting his cervical spine. Tend to agree with you. I'm Team Rode Mike. After everything that I've seen, I am Team Rode Mike. So we will see. Anyway, I will take a really quick break here, and we will come back with some of your comments and thoughts. All right, you guys, a recent industry survey found that PureTalk was the only wireless company to receive 5 stars in every category: coverage, support, value, and data. You deserve 5-star wireless service, and now PureTalk has an invitation for you. Switch to PureTalk today, and you can get any plan, including their top-shelf unlimited data plans, for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. There's no contract necessary, and this is just an insanely good offer to switch to a top-rated company. PureTalk's dedicated U.S. customer service team is a huge part of why they have 5 stars for support. Their team saves the average family of 4 over $1,000 a year. Now's a great time to choose PureTalk because you'll pay just $15 a month for your first 3 months on any plan. So head to puretalk.com/Owens to claim this offer. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens to start saving today. I also want to remind you guys about American financing because it is no secret that everything is starting to feel a lot more expensive. If those daily essentials are ending up on a credit card, those double-digit interest rates are quietly draining your bank account. If that debt is starting to feel heavy, you should know that you are not alone. And if you're a homeowner, you've maybe looked at your mortgage rate and thought, I can't touch that. but American Financing offers a smart equity loan so that you don't have to. It allows you to wipe out high interest debt and lower your monthly overhead while keeping your primary mortgage intact. It's a surgical strike against debt. Unlike a fluctuating HELOC, the smart equity loan is a fixed rate loan, giving you a predictable monthly payment. At American Financing, there are never any upfront fees to find out what you qualify for, so talk to a salary-based consultant today. These are experts who are paid to help you save, not sell you more than you need. So call 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210, or visit AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. AmericanFinancing.net/Owens. I want to remind you guys that there is still zero concrete evidence that has been produced that there was ever even a gun on the Losey Center. You have to remind you, this is how they do things. It's a psychological game. They want you to fill in the blanks. They actually produce no evidence. They just keep saying gunshot, gunshot, gunshot. And you go, okay, well, I saw a person running on the roof, so he must have been the person who shot it. And actually, when we went back and we had showed you that guy who recorded and said the only person to capture who was on campus who captured before the sound, I now refer to it as a sound because they kept telling us gunshot, went off. He says that he sees someone up on the roof right there. He doesn't say, it's remarkable, he recalled in detail the military moves and saw him getting into position. What he did not say, however, was that he saw a man with a gun get into that position. So if he observed a person military crawling, which has been proven true, and he saw this person get down into a position and then whipped out his phone to record it, don't you think the first thing he would have said was, I just saw somebody with a gun on the roof? I mean, listen to what he actually says. Again, this is recorded seconds before the sound of an explosive went off. Take a listen.
Getting right up.
Yeah. You think he'd already be in place?
You would think that. So there's somebody on the roof right there? Just saying.
Huh.
He just ran from over, where's my finger? Well, from over there, ran in, and now he's right there. Just saying.
And then he stops recording, and then he hears a bang, and then he's going, oh, and then news is saying Charlie Kirk was shot with a gun from someone on Losey Center, and he's thinking, oh, I saw the person who shot him on Losey Center. I'm going to take this to the police station and report this. But the idea that there was ever a gun on that rooftop of Losey Center, that's narrative. That's not a fact. And I do not believe that there was a gun. Least of all do I believe that it was Tyler Robinson's gun, which has dust on the barrel and his prints as the most degraded, that was on that rooftop. You might have gotten me if you said it was a handgun, because then we wouldn't be expecting to see it. But a German 98 Mauser, it's completely ridiculous. So I just wanted to remind you of that. This is what they keep doing, that same influencer overwhelm campaign. It's constantly telling you not to believe your own eyes. We will fill in the blanks and tell you what you see. And that's why they were so angry this week when we dropped that video. Because people got to see with their own eyes and go, wow, where did Tyler Robinson learn those moves? Someone even pointed out just the bravery it takes to just jump off of a rooftop that you haven't tried doing that before. Have you measured the roof? Like, I mean, have you ever been out with your friends and just tried to jump off of a cliff into water below? Like how much effort, you're like terrified. You look below a couple of times. This person just sprints, has it, lands, keeps going. Where did he learn that? What was in that Chick-fil-A sandwich? It's one of the greatest mysteries. What did he order at Chick-fil-A? Anyway, top comments from last episode. GI6791 writes, the fact that he'll take the time to mock you, referring to Andrew Colvett, won't take the time to answer your questions. Well, it says it all. What says it all also is just how angry they are. How angry. You're telling us that you're Charlie's best friends. You know everything about this guy. You see that and you don't go, wow, that's really weird. I'm starting to think that there may have been some more people involved. I want some more answers. Hey, Candace, thank you so much for releasing that footage. I really didn't know what to think when you were saying that somebody said there was military movements, but this changes the game. No, they're angry. How dare you? Here's We scrolled through 367 hours of your podcast. Here are the words you mispronounced, so nobody should listen to you or watch that video. What? Are you good? Are you sober? Chrissy writes, no footage of anyone pulling a gun out of their pants, but lots of evidence of Turning Point USA pulling another narrative out of their butts. Yeah, and they're going to keep doing that. They're going to keep doing that. By the way, I think my favorite comment came from Ray 4544 regarding the ridiculousness of telling us that we don't have a right to ask a question of where Charlie Kirk buried. This user wrote, we can be mailed private love letters that Charlie wrote to Erica that he expected no one to see as a fundraiser material, yet we can't know if he's cremated, yes or no. Sure, Jan. Like, that's it. It's ridiculous. How dare you ask that question? Can I have anything? Yeah, how about keep the love letters that he wrote to you? By the way, as I said, you start to notice that trend. I wish I had pulled it in today. That every time Erica ever posts or shares something about Charlie, it's actually her sharing something about herself. Charlie's like, you're amazing, I love you, and she shares it. Erica, you're the best person. Erica, you're so smart. And then she shares it as if she's sharing Charlie, but she's actually saying, look at how much Charlie thought I was amazing, and you guys should think I'm amazing too. And I also reflected on even that moment, and I did not think this at the time, because I was just in the stage of grief. And like I said, in that moment, I feel like at the memorial, I needed something from Erica. I was just like, oh, we're all going to be fighting together. But when you reflect on that moment, which they sold to us and which many of us, myself included, believe was this demonstration of the deepest and truest kind of Christianity, because she said, I forgive him. In retrospect, what Erica was doing was so evil. She was actually saying, I convict him. I convict Tyler Robinson, not forgive. I convict. She didn't have any idea that he had done it. We had him. She hadn't seen any evidence that herself, maybe the assumption was that she did, that she went to UVU when they showed her. No. She got on that stage, she put on a performance, and she said, I convict this man. I send this man to his death. That's the reality. That is the reality. Anyway, some comments that you guys have for us on today's episode. Renee writes, Charlie was killed soon after I lost my husband. I reached out to his first wife, and your show bonded us. Today is her birthday. We both always stay home, so I don't see her. Please wish Suzanne a happy birthday. We love you and all your hard work for Charlie. God bless you and your family. Happy birthday to Suzanne. And thank you for that comment. True Detective writes, in the words of the late Prince, and honey, I say, little dread, Colvette baby, you lied too fast. Oh, little dread Colvette, you need some bull that's going to last. Now the 80s have turned against Turning Point. Yeah, there's where I think we're all kind of just wondering how long they're going to keep it up for. How long is this going to go on? It's just demanding people get arrested. That's the stage you're at. You're like late stage crazy. People who know the truth and are sharing the truth, arrest them, raid their homes. Okay. I Am Relentless writes, these people undoubtedly suffer anxiety. I'm not sure who specifically you're speaking about, maybe Turning Point USA there. Mal writes, I've heard you say a few times that God only gives us what we can handle, but that isn't true. God will always give us more than we can handle, because then we will need to turn to him for his help. He wants us to come to him. Blessings to you. Christ is king. No, I think, but the point is like, it's more than you can handle, then you can handle it. Right. And if you get through it, man, you're stronger. You get strengthened by it. So even if at the time you're in it and you don't think that it is helping and you're on your knees just being like, please stop. That was how I felt. Like, I just remember the trip to Russia was where I was going, okay, I'm having, this is my breaking point. There was so much that was going on in my life in just this, you know, the Charlie assassination, obviously at the end of last year, followed by me then having to contend with the fight, with realizing that they were all fighting me because I wasn't, I don't know, in the cartel, so to speak. And I just then had to process that parts of my life were a lie, that Charlie's life was a lie, and that I was going to have to go to battle with all of these people. That's enough to completely break you. Then I actually broke my foot, like actually on Friday the 13th. like around the same time that like I found out when I was pregnant. Then I had a cancer scare, by the way, just to be clear. It's way past it. Everything's totally fine. But it was just one of those appointments that then turned into a second appointment and some later testing, which always then just takes too long to come back from the lab. And I was just like, I can't take anymore. And we're sitting here waiting for these results to come back. It was for thyroid. So it's also a very survivable cancer. But, and then we're going to Russia. I'm like, okay, I can totally get away. Then, the president of the United States like tweets by face. It's like most vile person of the year for no reason. We were not talking about Trump on the show, so that seemed totally sideways and crazy. And then I get to Russia, and my security member literally almost dies. And I just remember at this point being like, okay, God, far be it from me, far be it from me to say anything, but this feels passive aggressive. This is starting to feel, what did I do? Let's talk or whatever. And then you reflect on it, you get through it, and you realize like everything happens for a reason. You can take on so much more than you think you can take on. And at those moments, it's like you're just being strengthened. Like it's like going to a gym, and this is a terrible, obviously, analogy, but you're so sore and everything hurts, but it makes you stronger. Like doing those exercises makes you stronger. And now I just feel so fashioned. And like I say to you guys, I feel like Charlie's fighting with us. I just keep saying that. I feel like he is fighting with us right now. And so, yeah, God does give you more than you can handle, but like also doesn't give you more than you can handle because you come out the other side of it. Seven Sheets writes, I am amazed and amused by the so prolific naysayers to you online with maybe one of your reach and believers. They're crazy, but they seem so tough enough to open a jar of pickles, if you know what I mean. I'm here with you and God bless. Yeah, they're just insane. And there's something also just extraordinarily like gay, like 90s gay about like men that do that full time online. It's just like, I'm like, stop. Like, stop being a woman. Like, let us do that. You see these guys like, Candace said this. Candace. Debate me, Candace. Candace, look at me, Candace. I'm like, ew. Like the sissy culture of men online. When men podcast, they can't podcast like women. Do you get what I mean? If you're gonna be a man and you're gonna podcast, like, and they kind of carved out the podcast space, but who was it? It was the military bros. It was like Joe Rogan having on like UFC fighters. They were talking about their diet and their exercise, and you're like, oh, that's a man podcast. Now we have these like sissies. We're like, did you hear what Candace said yesterday? Oh, did you hear what Candace? And please don't do that. It's so gross. It's so gross. I hate looking at these men. It bothers me deeply. They're all Emmanuel Macron. Don't act like Emmanuel Macron. Act like Brigitte. Be a man. Art of Savagery writes, God bless every single person who has spoken up or offered assistance in this investigation, including those who will speak out in the near future. To God be the glory. Rest peacefully, Charlie. Your David has got this. Well, that is a perfect place to end today's episode. Also reminding you, if you want to support our work, we have book club tomorrow, so we'll be meeting. And we also have merch available on the website. It's the easiest way to support us is to buy a mug, buy a Standis cup, buy a t-shirt, join the book club, allow us to stay free. We'll stay free either way. I'm not going back into any sort of an institution, but we have great stuff. I love all our merch right now. It's really good. Anyway, you guys, thank you. Send us more tips at CandaceOwens.com if you know anything, and particularly about the Timpanogos shuttle. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh, just not true. Do not listen to what I said 4 seconds ago. We will see you guys on Monday, unless you were in the book club, in which case we will see you guys tomorrow.